Good morning. We are going to be doing a deep dive into the situation where Donald Trump is actively taking a bribe from the country of Qatar. And we have some surprising developments where certain allies of his are turning on him. So a little bit shocking there, but also, maybe this is something that can continue. We shall see. I appreciate every single one of you. Please make sure to stay here in the live. I love all of you. Let me take a sip of my coffee. Good morning, beautiful people. Hello! Hello! Akicha, good morning. Kantisa, good morning. Is YouTube Live similar where you can like send likes? That really, I wonder if that actually is how it works or if that helps the stream at all. So good morning, beautiful people. How are you all? Oh, Jenny D, hello. So we are going to be breaking down this situation, and I'm going to be giving you some developments in regards to Donald Trump actively violating the Emoluments Clause without, of course, the consent of Congress, by actively taking a bribe from a foreign country to the tune of a $400 million private plane known as the Palace in the Sky. And we're going to be breaking down some of the backlash that they're getting, including from people that are a part of the MAGA verse. And what is so funny is I guarantee that some of the far right-wing trolls that always end up coming into the live stream every single day are now going to flip their script and actually now totally will agree that, like, yeah, this is not a good idea. Why? Because some of their favorite influencers said so. Ben Shapiro, Mark Levin, and Laura Loomer, these are names of far right-wing propaganda, the far right-wing independent media. Again, it's not independent. It's as Kyle Kalinske, someone that I tend to also really follow and agree with in many ways, disagree in some ways, but calls it new corporate media. I think that it's very, very fair to say that. But even some of Trump's own sycophants and propagandists are like, yeah, dude, this is a little bit too much. Because let's also put into perspective that right now we are seeing huge delays. We are seeing cancellations. We are seeing a backlog of flights at airports like Newark. So what does that say when Donald Trump is set to accept this bribe of like this big private plane when ordinary people can't even get on their plane to go to whatever business conference or see their family? You know, it's just not good optics. So we're going to be breaking all of that down here. Please make sure to send some likes. It really does help the stream. I appreciate every single one of you. C-Bar, hello. I see a whole bunch of people jumping in here. Kantisa, Akicha, Jenny D, sorry. Not Jimmy Dean. Ginger Monster, hello. Elisa, hello. LAB, yes, impeach Trump. He needs to be removed. Like, yeah. Los El Mexicano, good morning. Buenos dias. C-Bar, hello. Don Davis, Carly, Jonathan Gabriel, Gary Pratt, hello. All right, so let's break everything down here, just as a quick little refresher. So you probably have heard that yesterday. All right, let me reset here. All right. Good morning, beautiful people. So you've probably heard by now that Donald Trump is set to take a bribe from the country of Qatar in the form of a private plane that is also known as the Palace in the Sky to the tune of $400 million to replace temporarily Air Force One, and then it will be bequeathed to Donald Trump's personal library foundation. I don't know why a plane needs to go to a library foundation, which will then be used for his personal use. Yeah, not corrupt at all, right? So this is a piece in The Guardian. Trump says planned gift of luxury plane from Qatar it's a very transparent deal. It's a very transparent deal. Let me tell you, it's one of the most transparent. You know, they're telling me that this is like a Trojan horse, but I think horses are beautiful, okay? Horses are gorgeous. You know, I don't care if it's a Trojan horse. I don't care about that. I think it's fantastic. So in a post on Truth Social, Donald Trump was very quick to call out people criticizing him for it. And of course, let me get the hands, because you can't do a Trump impression without the hands. The hands, they're huge. He says, so the fact that the Defense Department is getting a gift free of charge, yeah, that's not suspicious at all, of a 747 aircraft to replace the 40-year-old Air Force One temporarily in a very public and transparent transaction so bothers the crooked Democrats that they insist we pay top dollar for the plane. Anybody can do that. The Dems are world-class losers, MAGA. First off, I don't think that Democrats are saying that they want you to pay top dollar for it. I think they're saying that you shouldn't be taking this bribe at all. Because not only is this an explicit way for the Qatari government to literally bribe Donald Trump, and you're like, well, what are they getting in exchange? I'll show you here in a minute. But they're clearly also violating something in the Constitution called the Emoluments Clause. So, as a little scholarly note for you all, the Emoluments Clause is Article 1, Section 9, Clause 8. Okay? Yes, the Constitution, that thing that Donald Trump probably doesn't even know was written by James Madison. Probably thinks the Constitution, I heard that was a show on ABC, CBS, one of those woke networks. The Constitution, you know, someone told me it was one of those founders things. Okay, it's the book by the founders, and they talked about Benjamin Franklin holding the key, and it had the lightning strike. I'm funny. Anyway, so the Emoluments Clause in the Constitution specifically talks about how in the United States they do not want leaders, elected leaders, whether it's president or anyone in Congress, in the House or in the Senate, to be accepting any sort of bribes, basically. And I know this is in old English, you know, founders language, so let me break it down quickly. And make sure to send some likes if you're enjoying the stream. It says in here, and no person holding any office of profit or trust under them shall, without the consent of Congress, accept any present, emolument, office, or title of any kind whatsoever from any king, prince, or foreign state. I know there was a lot in there, so let me just break that down. It's saying that no person holding any office, so president, whether you are in the House of Representatives or in the Senate, shall, without the consent of Congress, without getting the permission of your House of Representatives, without this consent of the Senate, accept any present emolument, office, or title, basically a bribe. Accept any big gift or any big donation from any head of state, whether it's a king, prince, yada yada. So like the country of Qatar. Gotcha? So he could, now theoretically, Donald Trump could be poised to accept this if Congress grants him permission. Though, I don't think Congress, even under a Republican administration, are going to do that. I'll actually be a little bit shocked. Like, of course, MAGA is corrupt, but like, there's going to be some Republicans that are like, that's not great optics. I mean, people like Rand Paul are already out there being like, this is not a good idea. That all being said, it's very likely to violate the Emoluments Clause, but also there's national security implications that come along with it. But let me just quickly define emolument for you. An emolument is basically like a bribe. It's defined by Merriam-Webster as the returns arising from office or employment, usually in the form of compensation. And also dictionary.com says profit, salary, or fees from office or employment. So it is planned that Donald Trump is going to be accepting this luxury plane to the tune of $400 million, also known as the Flying Palace or Palace in the Sky. And he's claiming that anyone who turns down a free plane is stupid. Those are his words, not mine. Now, to fully put this in context here as well, a lot of the far right wing is also noticing this is not great optics. This is not great optics, dude. You really shouldn't be doing that. Like, you have Laura Loomer, Mark Levin, and Ben Shapiro turning on him. And now, I guarantee that a lot of the trolls, a lot of the far right-wing MAGA propagandists, cogs in the machine of MAGA, are all now going to change their tune and all of a sudden be like, oh, you know what? This is bad. We're calling out Trump for this. Good. I'm glad. You probably only came to that conclusion because people on the far right are now going to be saying it. That all being said, I hope that you join me in calling this out. And I don't often agree with Ben Shapiro, but I give credit where credit is due, and criticism where criticism is warranted. That's something that I do. You don't have to agree with my opinions, or my take, or my analysis. Nowhere are you obliged to do so. I'm here to give you the raw information. You can think critically for yourself. You don't have to come to the same conclusion. So, let me actually show you what Ben Shapiro has actually said on his show. So, indefensible, it's a bribe, such a stain on the administration. Some of President Donald Trump's staunchest supporters are among the loudest critics of the plan to accept a jet from Qatar for use as Air Force One. This is what Ben Shapiro said on his show, and I watched a little bit of it and read the transcript through. I think if we switch the names to Hunter Biden and Joe Biden, we'd all be freaking out on the right. Daily Wire co-founder Ben Shapiro said on Monday on his podcast. Gee, I wonder who literally said that yesterday. Like, it's so funny. It's so funny when I'm glad that he's coming to the same conclusion. Like, I'm glad that we have literally cleared that lowest of low bars. But like, it's funny when all of a sudden I see people coming to the same conclusions that are like that. Anyway, I was literally saying that yesterday. I said, replace the fact that this is Trump with Biden, the right would freak. And look, they would be right to do so. They would be. If Biden were to literally flirt with the idea of accepting a $400 million luxury plane to replace Air Force One, the right wing and Fox News would have a field day. They would. They'd be like, this is so corrupt. And then they would talk about how in this hypothetical example, transportation, specifically airline travel, is a disaster and what bad optics it is. But now, under this administration, much of Fox News is kind of quiet. Some of them are criticizing it to their credit, like Brian Kilmeade, but like many of them are quiet about it. So it really shows this craven nature of the far right to want to impose rules for everyone else, but not follow them themselves. And this is the thing. You cannot play a game. You cannot live in a civilized society with people who cannot agree on the follow through, the equal follow through of rules. You cannot play a fair game of Monopoly with an opponent that tries to change the rules every time it benefits them. It's like, again, Donald Trump, it's like trying to play Monopoly with a 4-year-old. Every single time that 4-year-old you land on their hotels, you have to pay twice, according to them. Otherwise, they'll start crying and whining and bitching and moaning. And then they land on your hotels and they're like, oh, I only have to pay half price. And if you don't give in to them, they're just going to whine, cry, bitch, and moan. That's the thing. That's how MAGA operates. Anyway, so that's my opinion. You can disagree, although it's really backed up by a lot of evidence. So, to Ben Shapiro's credit, he literally says, this administration's policy is too important, yada, yada, yada. President Trump promised to drain the swamp. In fact, this is not draining the swamp. And this is something that he said. The original question, is it good? Is it good for his agenda? Is it draining the swamp? The answer is that it is not. This is the transcript on YouTube of that episode that I wanted to point out. Also, he was literally saying, yeah, Donald Trump is planning to accept this as a gift, and then it will then transfer over to the Trump library for his own personal use. So maybe the far right will actually listen for a second, because now it's coming from Ben Shapiro, one of their favorite propagandists. So it's funny, like, when I say these things, people don't think that I'm actually like being forthcoming, but then he says it and all of a sudden it's true. This is the thing. This is what happens when people are brainwashed. Anyway, going further here, Ben Shapiro, to his credit, is even like, yeah, do you think they're giving this out of the kindness of their hearts? No, there's a deal. There's an art of the deal that is imposed within this. And he is right to also say that. And we'll get to that in a second. So, however, a striking number of Trump boosters sound almost as outraged as Democratic lawmakers who say that accepting the plane would be profoundly unethical and possibly illegal. Laura Loomer is one of those such people. She said, quote, "It's really going to be a stain, end quote, on the administration if true." So this was her post. She said, "It will be a stain." And she then goes on to say that it would be bad for the administration. But then ultimately she ends up saying, "But he's still the best president of my lifetime." And that she would take a bullet for him. Okay, I'm not going to get into that. But like, how are you going to say that something is like literally super, super corrupt, but then you take a bullet? Anyway, so many other people were talking about this online, about how this would be absolute blatant corruption. Even Mark Levin, another far-right-wing propagandist, said ditto. And this is how the Trump administration is responding. This is a piece from Fox News. Trump rips ABC reporter for asking about accepting a jet from Qatar. Says she should be embarrassed for asking the question. Remember Donald Trump's post on Truth Social where he was talking about how it would be dumb for him to not accept this? Remember that? He said, "So it bothers the so crooked Democrats that they insist we pay top dollar for it. So the fact that the Defense Department is getting a gift free of charge, to replace the 40-year-old Air Force One temporarily in a very public transaction, so bothers the crooked Democrats that they insist we pay top dollar." Basically, he's saying that they're stupid if they don't, like, accept it, right? Well, Fox is trying to do Trump's, bidding and defend people that defend Donald Trump doing this blatantly corrupt thing. So, for those of you who remember the name Rachel Scott is an ABC News reporter that asked about this. You might remember Rachel Scott from an interview that Trump gave during the National Association of Black Journalists. We'll get to that in a little bit. But in this moment, President Donald Trump scolded an ABC reporter on Monday, telling her that she should be embarrassed for asking about accepting a luxury jet from the nation of Qatar. I also don't know. People are saying Qatar and Qatar. I don't know which one is the correct one. I'm just going to keep saying Qatar. I don't have the chat visible for me, so if someone wants to correct me in the chat, I will be better about that going forward. And it would be stupid to turn it down. This is literally his words. So, Rachel Scott, the reporter from ABC News, says, "Sir, what do you say to people who view the luxury jet as a personal gift to you?" Rachel Scott asked him at the White House, and yada, yada, yada. He said, "You're ABC fake news, right? You're fake news? Let me tell you, you should be embarrassed. You should be embarrassed for asking that question. They're giving us a free jet. I could say, no, don't give us. I want to pay $1 billion or 400 million, whatever it is. I could say thank you very much, And then he launched into an anecdote about legendary golfer Sam Snead and how he would always accept it if a competitor offered him a putt, which is known as, in the sport, as a gimme. It's like he offers this weird golf reference. "A lot of people are stupid. They say, no, I insist on putting it. They insist, they putt it, and they miss it, and then when you give them a putt, they pick it up, and they walk to the next hole, and you say, thank you very much." So, Donald Trump is basically saying, oh, it's not suspicious at all. I'm going to accept it. Someone's giving me a handout. I'm going to accept it. Put the shoe on the other foot. If this was Biden, and Biden were to accept this, you would scream at the top of your lungs. But see, this is the thing. It's heads I win, tails you lose style politics. MAGA wants that. They want to impose rules for thee, but not follow it when it comes to me. That's the thing. in this country, you have it, and that's why people call it white supremacy, because they view themselves as better. They don't have to live by those rules. They think of themselves as better than others. That's where a lot of these woke, dangerous leftists come at it. And look, I would agree with that perspective. Rachel Scott followed up and said, respectfully, sir, as a businessman, some people may look at this and say, have you ever been given a gift worth $1 million and then not received any? And she was then cut off by Trump, who then said, a lot of people are stupid. A lot of people are stupid. No, sorry. He ended up responding, sorry, not that. It's not a gift to me. It's not a gift to me. It's a gift to the Department of Defense. You should know better because you've been embarrassed enough, and so has your network. Your network is a disaster. ABC is a disaster. So literally he interrupts the reporter who's like just asking a follow-up question. So, and this gets into like the really weak sauce defense that that Trump has for this blatant corruption. But just as a quick little reminder, this was the interaction that was happening. You all remember Rachel Scott? Rachel Scott was the person that had a sit-down interview with a couple other different journalists from Semaphore and Harris Faulkner of Fox at the National Association of Black Journalists while Donald Trump was running for president in 2024. And if you remember, Rachel Scott was someone who asked the president about a couple things. And the reason why I'm bringing this up now is because when I first read that it was Rachel Scott having this moment, Donald Trump doesn't like Rachel Scott. That's my theory. Because this moment, the last interview he did with her, that was like, the last big interview he did was really bad. It was so bad. If you remember, Rachel Scott is the person that was interviewing him for the National Association of Black Journalists. And if you remember that moment, this is how it went. Trump falsely accuses Harris of deciding to turn black during a combative panel with black journalists. So let me show you just the transcript of that. I've known her a lot, and that she was only promoting Indian heritage. I did not know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black. And now she wants to be known as black. I respect either one. I respect either one. But she obviously doesn't. She obviously doesn't. She was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn. She woke up one day, decided to take a pill, and then say, you know what, I'm going to be black today. I'm going to be black today. I'm going to celebrate the blackness. She became black. Somebody should look into that. Somebody should look into that. You know, if I heard that you could change colors, I'd go from white to orange to green to blue to chartreuse. Chartreuse, you know, that's an underrated color. Chartreuse is an underrated color. Maybe mauve. Maybe mauve would be better. And then he's like, is she Indian or black? So, it's like, during that moment, Donald Trump said that. And she also then asked, like, some of your own supporters, including Republicans in Capitol Hill, have labeled Kamala Harris, who was the first black and Asian American woman to serve as vice president, as a DEI hire. Is that acceptable language to you? And he goes, how do you define DEI? Go ahead. How do you define it? And she's like, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And he goes, yeah, no, go ahead. What's your definition? She just defined it for you. She just defined it. And so, and she's like, yeah, go ahead. And Rachel Scott's like, that's literally the words. He goes, no, give me a definition. Would you give me a definition? Give me a definition of that. I'm asking you a question, sir. Is like what she's saying. And then, no, how would you define it? Define it if you would. I just defined it, sir. If you go and watch the video, it's really, really crazy. But it goes on to then say, he says in here, during this interview with Rachel Scott, I will tell you that coming from the border, there are millions of people who happen to be taking black jobs. Remember when he said that? So in the last interview he had with Rachel Scott, this is the person that was questioning him about taking the luxury yacht. He already doesn't like her. He then says in here, people are coming from the border and they're taking the black jobs. She's like, excuse me, sir, what exactly is a black job? And he goes, a black job A black job is anybody that has a job. That's what it is. Anybody that has a job. Not a brown job, not a white job, not a nose job, you know, not a hand job. And let me tell you, I like those too. Those, you know, I like a handout, but I also like a hand job, you know. Hand jobs are one of the best. It's fantastic. It's incredible, you know. And I got a nose job. So Melania told me to get a nose job, and I said, that smells, you know, that smells fishy, let me tell you. So in regards to going back to the present, Donald Trump was being asked by Rachel Scott about taking this luxury $400 million bribe from the country of Qatar. And Trump responds, "You're fake news, you're ABC, right? You should be embarrassed. You should be embarrassed for asking that kind of question." And it doesn't get any better. It doesn't get any better with Caroline Leavitt, Trump's White House press secretary, because she comes in and literally is like, Trump has done everything from the bottom of his heart. Those are not his exact words. Let me give you her exact words. Any donation to this government is always and has been done with the full compliance of the law, and we commit ourselves to the utmost transparency, and we will continue to do that. I don't know how she can lie. Like, does she have no shame? Like, it's actually fascinating to me. And in an interview with Brian Kilmeade of Fox News, Fox was trying to like steer, like, you know, maybe this is a little much. And so Brian Kilmeade asked, do you worry that if they give us something like this, they'd want something in return? And Caroline Leavitt said, absolutely not, because they know President Trump, and they know he only works in the interest of the American public in mind. Yeah, only works in the interest of the American public. That's why he's put on all of these tariffs that are raising the prices of all of these goods. That's why he literally imploded the stock market and went in there, completely throwing an unstable wrench into it. And then all of a sudden, him and his rich buddies made millions and billions of dollars. Yeah. Only acts in the interest of the American people. The American people don't think that you act in the interests of them. Anyway, but she goes on. She's like, I think it's frankly ridiculous that anyone in this room would even suggest that President Trump is doing anything for his own benefit. He's left a life. He left a life of luxury and all of life running a very successful real estate empire for public service, not just once but twice. He lives a life of luxury now. It's not like he's left that at all. Speaking of luxury, if you want to talk about what Donald Trump is getting in return for this bribe, the $400 million jet bribe, you know what he's getting in return? Donald Trump is set to have his first big resort golf course in the country of Qatar. It's a bribe in exchange for investment into the country. We're probably going to learn more news about this tomorrow, but exclusive. This is in Reuters. Trump's first real estate project in Qatar to be announced by Qatari DR and Dar Global. And this is a deal that's set to be announced tomorrow, Wednesday. And it's going to be a Trump International Golf Course. It's going to have 18 holes of golf. It's going to have an amusement park. And it's going to be near Samasima Beachside Development, which is 40 minutes north of Doha, which is the capital of Qatar. Qatar is a wealthy country that has a lot of money, specifically from petrochemical oil development within the region. The $5.5 billion development, which is led by Qatari DR, is designed as a 7 km long mega entertainment resort district. And Eric Trump, the son of the US President Donald Trump, is going to be visiting today. So you want to talk about a bribe? This is a bribe. And my theory is that this is also a Trojan horse. Look, the Qatari government is not just going to give Trump something out of the bottom of their hearts, like without getting something in return. So my theory is that, yeah, well, correlation does not always equal causation, except for when it does. And that sounds confusing, But when you see Donald Trump accepting a $400 million plane, that's, first of all, likely to be bugged, likely a Trojan horse. Who knows? They could literally rig the plane so that it blows up while you're flying on it, unaliving our president. I'm not a fan of Donald Trump. That's just a possible thing. Just saying. I mean, it could also be listening in to the conversations that he has, jeopardizing our national security. So, like, anyone that thinks that this would be a good idea, I mean, it is like the Trojan horse. Remember what happened with the, I believe it was the Tunic Wars, right? It was with like the Carthaginians, where literally you had the Trojan horse that they made, and they were like, oh, this is a beautiful gift. They welcomed it into their kingdom, and all of a sudden it was like, oh my gosh, we're all fighting, you know? So I think that it's very likely that this would be a Trojan horse. And even people in the MAGA universe are condemning and calling this out as a bribe, which it clearly is. And again, it also violates the Constitution if he were to accept this without the consent of Congress. Though it would not be the first time that he tries to violate the Constitution. After all, they're actually even talking, Stephen Miller, his goon, is thinking about trying to suspend habeas corpus, which then would be suspending the Constitution for due process. And so, like, and Donald Trump himself said that he does not know if he has to uphold the Constitution. So it would not be inconceivable for him to not uphold this. So, like, anyway, it's just, I mean, this whole moment is just so crazy. It's, if this were to be Joe Biden, or if this were to be Hunter Biden, the right would literally have a field day. So I have to go here, but if you've enjoyed this stream, then please make sure to like the stream. Please make sure to share it. If this was your first time here, say hello really quickly and where you're tuning in from, and make sure to subscribe. I work really, really hard to compile all this information and try to give it to you as most non-biased as I can. You don't have to agree with my analysis. I appreciate every single one of you. Shout out to my moderators for keeping civil in the chat. I love all of you so much. You know, I do have to get going because I have to get to work. You know, your boy is a working class boy. So anyway, I appreciate all of you. I mean, God, this is the fact that Donald Trump is set to literally accept this bribe and calls people stupid if they don't accept it. This is literally what we're living through. Now, I will give briefly, I give credit to Trump for trying to lower drug prices. I talked about it yesterday. He signed some sort of executive order saying he wants to lower drug prices. I need to read more about it before I report more on it. But if that's the actual case, then great. Credit where credit is due. Though also, it's a huge national security risk if we literally have a president that accepts a bribe to the tune of $400 million from the Qatari government in exchange for real estate investment in that country, which also jeopardizes national security. And even far-right-wing influencers and propagandists are like, yeah, this is not a good idea. It's shaking up the MAGA universe, and I'm going to talk about it. So, I appreciate every single one of you. I love all of you so much. Please make sure to subscribe if this was your first time here. All of my lives are posted, so if you end up missing one, go to the live tab. If you want to support me and my work, then please click that join button. There are 3 tiers. Shout out to my amazing moderators in here. Akicha, I love you. Elisa, Ellie, Joanna Tech, Kate, Cherie, Jenny. I could not do any of this without you all. I love all of you so much. Ginger Monster, Kantisa, I love all of you. Akicha, C-Bar, I could not be here without you all. So anyway, just remember that you are beautiful, you are loved, you are valid, you are strong, and you are fierce. Don't let anyone or anything ever dim your shine. I love all of you so much. Bye!